Hello there BookTube, it's Janet, and today I seem to have amassed some books. So I've got a book haul and I don't know how it happened. Well, I do, because I keep buying with one click. Yeah, I've just been a bit out of control lately and I've just been back in my old habits of buying books, but I just think I needed a whole refresh, and I'm going to get it all under control. But hey ho, let me show you. I've not bought anywhere near as many books this year as I would normally have done, and I have read quite a lot. So the first books I've got to show you are the two that I got. I bought my first Moth box subscription recently just to see what they were like, because I knew that with Mercedes the type of books that she reads, they're very, very different to what I would normally read. So I thought, well, I'll give it a go and see what I think of them. And both books are absolutely beautiful. The first book is called Starshot by Marianne Constantine, and if you just look at the cover of that, that is absolutely beautiful. And this says, part fable, part mystery, Starshot is a poignant debut set in Cardiff. It's a time that is almost but not quite our own. As their paths cross in a circumscribed world of benches, parks and galleries, a handful of characters reveal stories of obsession, loss and recovery, creating a fragile network of relationships which will help to resist the inexorable channels of silence eating into the city. And this is also, it's got beautiful illustrations as you go through it, and it's got, it says it's a subtle and humorous urban novel with a supernatural twist, so I'll give that one a go. And obviously the Moth boxes come with absolutely beautiful little bookmarks as well, with a quote on the back from the novel, so that is just something really, really beautiful to own. And the next one I got sent is a book called Ties by Domenico Starnone, and this says was the winner of the Bridge Prize for Best Novel 2015, and that's a prize I've never heard of. This again is an absolutely beautiful book. It has French flaps in it, so it's beautifully produced, and again both of these books were things I'd never heard of. And this, it says, Ties is the story of a marriage. Like many marriages, this is one that's been subject to strain, to attrition, to the burden of routine, yet it has survived intact, or so things appear. The rupture in Vanda and Aldo's marriage lies years in the past, but if one looks closely enough, the fissures and fault lines are evident. Their marriage is a cracked vase that may shatter at the slightest touch, or perhaps it is already shattered and nobody is willing to acknowledge the fact. And this looks like it's translated fiction from the Italian, which I've wanted to read more sort of translated authors, so that sounds like a good one. And again, it's just a quick read, so I will definitely be giving that a go. Next I've got 6 stories, and this is by Matt Wesolowski. I've already read this actually. This is a new take on sort of a crime novel, and I saw this, I bought this because Brittany from Under Radar Books was raving about it, and it's the story of an outward bound centre that a group of friends go to every year. They're quite a toxic group of friends, but on the surface you think they were, you know, there was no problems. One of them disappears, and there is an investigation into that, and nobody knows whether he's been murdered or had an accident. And then anyway, his body turns up a year later, and they can't actually decide what has caused this to happen. So there's an inquest, and the verdict is death by misadventure, but obviously the feeling is that it wasn't, it was a murder. And so this follows the story 20 years later, where there's a podcast that looks at cold cases from different perspectives, and this is where the 6 stories come in. Next was a gift from Eleanor, and this is Beneath a Scarlet Sky by Mark Sullivan, and if you just look at that, that's absolutely beautiful. But this is an absolute stonker of a novel, but this is just the kind of thing that I love. And this is a book set in Italy and during the war, and so I love anything like that. I love books set abroad, and I'm really interested in historical fiction. I'm really interested in seeing the events of history through the eyes of characters in novels, and I find it brings history to life for me, and I do actually like reading books about the war. And this is actually based on the true story of a forgotten hero. And it says, beneath the scarlet sky is the triumphant epic tale of one young man's incredible courage and resilience during one of history's darkest hours. Pino Lella wants nothing to do with the war or the Nazis. He's a normal Italian teenager obsessed with music, food and girls, but his days of innocence are numbered. When his family home in Milan is destroyed by Allied bombs, Pino joins an underground railroad helping Jews escape over the Alps, and falls for Anna, a beautiful widow 6 years his senior. In an attempt to protect him, Pino's parents force him to enlist as a German soldier, a move they think will keep him out of combat. But after Pino is injured, he is recruited at the tender age of 18 to become the personal driver for Adolf Hitler's left hand in Italy, General Hans Leyers, one of the Third Reich's most mysterious and powerful commanders. Now with the opportunity to spy for the Allies inside the German High Command, Pino endures the horrors of the war and the Nazi occupation by fighting in secret, his courage bolstered by his love for Anna and for the life he dreams they will one day share. That just sounds like my kind of epic tale, so I'll be getting to that really soon, I think, because it just sounds fabulous. Next, I bought this because I saw, in fact the next two I'm going to tell you about are two fantasy novels. I saw Caitlin from Kitty G review and she really enjoyed this series, and it's something I'd quite like to get into because I don't really read much fantasy, but when I have read it I do like it. And this is The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu, and I think this is a duology, so I don't think like if you start reading it you're in for quite a lot of books. I think I just wanted to start a little bit slowly. And it says, Emperor Mapidir was the first to unite the island kingdoms of Dara under a single banner. But now the Emperor is on his deathbed, his people are exhausted by his vast conscriptive engineering projects, and his councillors conspire only for their own gain. Even the gods themselves are restless. And it just says that a wily, charismatic bandit and the vengeance-sworn son of a deposed duke cross paths as they each lead their own rebellion against the Emperor's brutal regime. Together they will journey to the heart of the Empire, witnessing the clash of armies, fleets of silk-draped airships, magical books and shape-shifting gods. Their unlikely friendship will drastically change the balance of power in Dara, but at what price? So it just sounds like it's like a mashup of sort of like Chinese history and culture with a big dose of fantasy thrown in, so I'm quite keen to have a go at that one. And the next one I got, because again I saw it on Caitlin's channel, is the first one in the series, and this is Traitors Blade by Sebastian de Castell. And what I like about this as well, although the cover is beautiful, is that for a fantasy book it's not that thick, because they tend to be massive and I've got a fear of big books. And this is sort of in the Greatcoat series, so this is book 1. And this again, the king is dead. The Greatcoats have been disbanded, and Falcio Valmond and fellow magistrates Kest and Brasti have been reduced to working as bodyguards for a nobleman who refuses to pay them. Things could be worse. Their employer could be lying dead on the floor while the three of them are forced to watch as the killer plants evidence, framing them for the murder. Oh wait, that's exactly what's happening. A royal conspiracy is about to unfold in the most corrupt city in the world, and it could mean the ruin of everything Falcio, Kest and Brasti have fought for. If the trio want to unwind the conspiracy, save the innocents and reunite the Greatcoats, they'll have to do it with nothing but the tattered coats on their backs and the swords in their hands, because these days every noble is a tyrant, every knight is a thug, and the only thing you can really trust is a traitor's blade. So that sounds really cool. And the next one I've got is a book I bought myself, and I've had this on my wish list for quite a long time. So this is called Palace Walk by Naguib Mahfouz. And it's the first in a trilogy, and it's got a beautiful cover. And this, apparently, it says on it, it won the Nobel Prize for Literature. And it's the first in a sweeping family saga set in Egypt. And it says, a sweeping and evocative portrait of both a family and a country struggling to move towards independence in a society that has resisted change for centuries. Set against the backdrop of Britain's occupation of Egypt immediately after World War I, Palace Walk introduces us to the Al Jawad family. Ahmad, a middle-class shopkeeper, runs his household strictly according to the Quran. While at night he explores the pleasures of Cairo, A tyrant at home, Ahmad forces his gentle, oppressed wife and 2 daughters to live cloistered lives behind the house's lattice windows, while his 3 very different sons live in fear of his harsh will. So that's the first one, and it says on the back it's a masterpiece, so I thought that would be really interesting. I don't think I've ever read a book that's written by or set in Egypt, and I know nothing of sort of its culture other than obviously the ancient Egyptians, so I'm quite keen to read that one. And I do love a family saga. Next is my Shelf Slam book that I got for June, and this was what Eleanor sent me. And this is A Boy Made of Blocks by Keith Stewart. I know this has been everywhere on BookTube, and I believe that this is about an autistic child, and it just says a father who rediscovers love. Alex loves his wife Jodie but has forgotten how to show it. He loves his Sam's son but doesn't understand him. He needs a reason to grab his future with both hands. A son who shows him how to live. Meet 8-year-old Sam, beautiful, surprising and different. To him the world is a frightening mystery, but as his imagination comes to life, his family will be changed for good. So I think that's quite a good reading. I do believe that, you know, it's getting quite a lot of praise. And the book that Brittany got me for June's Shelf Slam is The Dry by Jane Harper, and this is a thriller. Oh, thank you. And this is set in Australia. So again, it's really good for reading around the world. And it says Australia is in the grip of its worst drought in a century, and it hasn't rained in the small country town of Kiawarra for 2 years. Tensions in the community become unbearable when 3 members of the Hadler family are brutally murdered. Everyone thinks Luke Hadler, who committed suicide after slaughtering his wife and 6-year-old son, is guilty. Policeman Aaron Falk returns to his hometown for the funeral of his childhood best friend and is unwillingly drawn into the investigation. As questions mount and suspicion spreads through the town, Falk is forced to confront the community that rejected him 20 years earlier, because Falk and Luke Hadler shared a secret, one which Luke's death threatens to unearth, and as Falk probes deeper into the killings, secrets from his past bubble to the surface as he questions the truth of his friend's crime. So that looks like a really good page turner. And then the final one I've got to show you, I was just browsing Amazon, and you know how your finger can just suddenly buy with one click. It suddenly bought with one click, and this book just looks like an absolute riot, but again, it fits in with reading around the world. And this is Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan, and look at that cover. It's sparkly pink and amazing. So I just had to get it. And this says, when Rachel Chu agrees to spend the summer in Singapore with her boyfriend Nicholas Young, she imagines a humble family home and a time with the man that she might one day marry. What she doesn't know is that Nick's family home happens to look like a palace, that she'll ride in more private planes than cars, and that she's about to encounter the strangest, craziest group of people in existence. Scandalous, addictive and filled with jaw-dropping opulence, Crazy Rich Asians is an insider's look at the Chinese jet set, a fascinating depiction of the clash between old money and new. So I just thought it sounded like an absolute riot, so I had to buy it. And apparently there's loads of books by Kevin Kwan and that kind of, sort of, this kind of genre, so if I like it, there's more to come. That's what I've been buying. Let me know if you've read any of these and what you think. You know, and obviously I'm begging forgiveness for my weak-willed finger that keeps clicking on bye. So I will see you all soon. Keep reading. Bye.